Good morning, class. We'll continue with module 1 again for the topic 1, data preprocessing. But this time we'll cover subtopic 1.5, data reduction and selection. Okay. So basically, data reduction and selection is a crucial step in data preprocessing. And then this particular section will focus on how to manage large data set efficiently. Okay, for this slide, I think slide number 3. Okay, this slide, it's divided into 3 parts. Okay, 3 information here. One is data reduction, another is method for data reduction, and then why data reduction is important. So let's see first, what is data reduction? Data reduction, basically the objective is to obtain a reduced representation of a data set, which means we have a lot of features and samples, so we only obtain the reduced number, a smaller number. So the reduced data set is much smaller in volume, but still produces almost the same analytical results. Okay, and this process helps in managing large data sets more efficiently without losing critical information. So this is very important, data reduction. So what are the methods? Okay, methods for data reduction. These are techniques used to achieve the data reductions. Some common methods are regression and log linear models, which is use statistical models to approximate the data with fewer parameters. Second is histogram clustering and sampling. Histogram basically summarizes the data distribution using beans. Clustering group similar data points together, and sampling select a subset of data that represent the whole data set. And third method is data cube aggregation. It's aggregate the data into higher level summaries, example like cubes, for faster querying. And number 4 is data compression. Okay, this is basically reduce the physical storage size of the data using compression algorithm. Okay, why do we need a data reduction? Okay, database and data warehouses often store terabytes of data. Okay, can be more than that. Managing such large volumes can be computationally expensive and time consuming. So for that, we need to reduce the data. Second reason, complex analysis on the complete data set may take a very long time to run. So the data reduction helps speed up the analysis by working with a smaller representative data set. So as a conclusion, data reduction is essential for handling large data sets efficiently by using techniques like regression, clustering, sampling, and data compression. And we can create a smaller manageable data set that retains the essential analytical value. This not only saves computational resources, but also accelerates the analysis process. Next, data reduction. Okay, there are 2 categories, okay, parametric and non-parametric methods in data reduction. So understanding these approaches is crucial. Again, it's important for efficiently managing large data set while preserving their analytical value. Okay, so you can see one is parametric, the other one is non-parametric. Okay, basically parametric method, it's reduce data volume by choosing alternative smaller forms of data representation. On the other side, non-parametric is actually do not assume models. Unlike parametric methods, so non-parametric methods do not make assumptions about the underlying data distribution. Okay, let's look into a bit deeper. Okay, the key characteristics of parametric methods. They assume a specific model. Okay, parametric method assume specific that the data follows a particular statistical model, example like linear, exponential. It also estimates the model parameters. Instead of storing the entire data set, only the estimated parameters are retained. Okay, so this is the characteristics of parametric method. Discard the data. Once the parameters are obtained or estimated, the original data can be discarded except for the possible outliers. Okay, you can discard the original data because you already obtained the estimated parameters. Example, log linear model. So you can see that there's a log linear model. This model estimate the value at a point in m dimensional space as the product of values on appropriate marginal subspaces. This approach significantly reduces the data volume while retaining the essential structure. Okay, on the other side, non-parametric also got some characteristics. So the main one is just now I mentioned, it's do not assume models. Compared to parametrics, it's assume model, but non-parametrics do not assume the model. Okay, unlike parametrics method. So focus on data patterns. Okay, it's focus on data patterns. This model, this method directly analyze the raw data to identify patterns or structures. Major families under this parametric method, non-parametric methods are histograms, clustering, sampling, stratify sampling. Okay, so you can see the visual illustration on the right side of the diagram here, the slide. Histogram, which is a non-parametric. On the other side is a regression line, which is a parametric. Okay, so histogram on the slide shows the frequency distribution of data points, and the visualization helps summarize the data without assuming any specific model. But on the other side, for the regression, the scatter plot with regression lines illustrate how parametrics method fit the model, linear regression, to the data. Okay, here the relationship between the tip and bill, is modeled using regression lines for different days of the week. So you can see the two different things. One, they assume the model. The other one is not assume the model. So assume model is based on parametric method, not assume the model based on non-parametrics method. Okay, we'll see that more deeper about each of these methods in coming slides later on. Okay, next, parametric data reduction. Okay, this example basically about regression analysis. Okay, what is regression analysis? Regression analysis is a powerful statistical tool used to model and analyze numerical data, and it plays a crucial role in data reduction by providing a compact representation of data. Okay, so the key point of data regression is a collective name for a techniques used to model and analyze numerical data. Generally, it's about numerical data. Okay, the components for this one, there are two components. One is dependent variable, the other one is independent variable. Dependent variable also called the response variable or a measurement. Okay, so this is the variable where we are trying to predict or explain. Independent variable, also known as explanatory variable or a predictors. These are the variables used to predict the dependent variable. Okay, independent means in Malay we call as tidak bergantung lah. Okay, dependent means bergantung kepada. So objective, to understand the relationship between the dependent variable and one or more independent variable, whether they are depends on each other or not, we need to identify that. So on a parameter estimation, parameters are the coefficients or constant in the regression equation that define the relationship between variables. Okay, the best fit is the parameters are estimated to provide the best fit of the data. So that's why we even though the data points here is a scatter plot, and we try to obtain the best fitted line here. Okay, that is a function of regression analysis. Okay, so the least square methods, the most common technique used to evaluate the best fit. It minimizes the sum of the square differences between observed values and the values predicted by the model. Okay. Other criteria, while least square is widely used, other criteria like maximum likelihood can also be employed depending on the context. Okay, so based on the graph here, you can see the line is, the equation for the line linear regression is y equal to x plus 1. So the points represent the observed data and the line represent the best fit model. The vertical dash line, okay, you can see the vertical dash line indicates the difference between the observed value, which is y1, and the predicted value y prime 1, okay, on the regression line. Okay, next, linear and multiple regression. Okay, these two fundamental techniques in regression analysis as well. Understanding this model is crucial for modeling relationship between variables and making prediction. So let's go on with linear regression first. Data modeling is the data is modeled to fit a straight line. Okay, you can see here this diagram. It's fit to a straight line. It's often used the least square methods to fit the line. Okay, the equation can be y equal to wx plus b. Okay, the response, y is the response variable, x is the predictor variable, and w is the slope, okay, or the regression coefficient, and b will be the intercept. Generally, what we learned during our school time, y equal to mx plus c, right? Okay, it's also similar. Only thing is the variable, the coefficient, the variable name is different, like y is capital. Instead of m, we use w. Okay, so the least square methods often use the least square methods to find the best fit line. So this method minimizes the sum of the square differences between the observed value y1 and the predicted value y hat. Okay, so the parameter estimation on the other side, the regression coefficient w and p are obtained or estimated using the known value of y1, y2, y3, and so on and so forth, and the x1, x2, x3, so on and so forth. Okay, based on the visual illustration, you can see there, okay, it's a linear graph there. The graph on the slide shows the scatter plot of the data points with a fitted straight line. Okay, even though it's a scatter plot, but they try to obtain, that is the best thing that we need to obtain, the best fitted line. Okay, the x-axis represents the high school score for GPA. Okay, and the y-axis represents the university GPA. Okay, one is high school, the other one is x is high school, y is university. Yeah? So the red line is the best fit line obtained using the least square method. Okay, in order to obtain the best fitted line, we use least square method. On the other side, okay, the second section in this slide is nonlinear regression, where data is modeled using a function that is nonlinear combination of the model parameters and depends on one or more independent variable. Unlike linear regression, the relationship between the dependent and independent variable is not a straight line. You can see the diagram there, the graph there. Okay, it's not a straight line. So the exact form of the equation depends on the specific non-linear model being used. So the fitting method is using a method of successive approximation, for example, like iterative algorithms, for example, gradient descent, or Newton methods. Newton method is a very popular method which is for the approximation. Okay, so non-linear regression can capture more complex relationship but requires more computational efforts compared to linear regression, because linear regression is quite straight to the point, right? Because somehow it's a straight line, but non-linear, you won't get a straight line. Usually it's like curve-based lines. So the graph here, it shows a scatter plot with the data points with fitted non-linear curve. You can see here it's a non-linear curve. The x-axis represent independent variable and y-axis represent the dependent variable. So the red curve is the best fit nonlinear model obtained through the successive approximation. So in general, okay, linear regression is suitable when the relationship between variables is linear and can be modeled using a straight line. While on the other hand, the non-linear regression is used when the relationship is more complex and cannot be adequately represented by a linear model. Both methods are essential tools for regression analysis, and the choice between them depends on the nature of your data set. Okay, so more or less it's similar to multiple regression and log linear model. I guess you guys can study yourself. Okay, I'll continue with histograms. Okay, histogram analysis is a fundamental technique that used in the data reduction and visualization. What is histogram? Basically, histogram is a graphical representation of data distribution. It's divide the data into buckets or bins and store the average, the sum of the for each bucket. Okay, partitioning rule, there are two. One is equal weight buckets. Each bucket has the same range. All buckets span the same interval. On the other side is we have equal frequency bucket. Okay, so each bucket contains approximately the same number of data points, also called equal depth partitioning. One is width partitioning, the other one is depth partitioning. So the histogram there, it shows you the data divided into buckets along the x-axis, and the y-axis represent the frequency or the count for each bucket. So different colors there represent the data set or categories in the same histogram. So generally, histogram analysis is a simple yet effective method for data reduction and visualization. By dividing the data into bucket and summarizing it, histogram provide a clear picture of the underlying data distribution. So this technique is widely used in exploratory data analysis (EDA) and pre-processing step. In order to understand the data so we use this method. Next, clustering. Clustering basically it's a partition. It's involved partitioning a data set into groups based on similarity. Okay, instead of storing all the individuals, we already learned these in fundamental data science, right? Okay, only the cluster representation like centroid and diameter is retained. So effectiveness, clustering method is highly effective when the data naturally forms distinct clusters. However, it may be not perform well if the data is smeared or lack clear groupings. Okay, we have hierarchical clustering. Clusters be organized hierarchically, forming a tree-like structure. And this hierarchical organization allows for efficient storage in multidimensional index tree structures. For example, R trees. So you can see there are three different colors: red color, yellow color, and blue color in the clustering. So which means there are three clusters there. Okay. Okay, I'll stop here and then we'll continue with dimensional reduction in the second part of the video.